Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to another player profile. Let's talk a little bit of Heath Shaw. He's an interesting one, is Heath. I think prior to Zac Williams going down, he was yesterday's hero, a great SuperCoach servant of years gone by, but he was well and truly past it in the twilight of his career, put in that category of superstars that are on the considerable down, and we weren't to look at him again. All of a sudden Zac Williams goes down. We already know Nathan Wilson is off to Fremantle. All of a sudden we're thinking, who's going to be the rebounder for the Giants? Who's that going to be? All of a sudden Heath Shaw has come back in a little bit of calculation, at least for some. I don't think the numbers of ownership is reflecting it, but I have got a few questions of, look, Shorty, what do you think of Heath Shaw? Is he worth it? Who else is going to rebound for him? Surely he comes back at a more offensive role. So it's probably fair discussion to talk about. We'll roll through a few numbers, and look, we all know how good he's been for so long. We can get him at $458K, which is as cheap as we've been able to get him for a long time, after an average of 83.3 last season, which produced just 3 centuries and one in the prelim final as well. So clearly it was a tough season for him. He really seemed to play less of that, Heath, you're the man we're giving the ball to out of the back line, let's give it to Heath on every occasion, because we know as a Giant for so many years he's been that experienced head out of the back line, the one to give it to, the rebound man, the exit guy, their best kick going out of defence. And he just seemed to lose that tag a little bit with the likes of Wilson and Williams coming on board. But I think there was also some physical signs that he maybe is tapering off, which at 32 years old you can't blame him. But it was, in terms of his time at the Giants, it was career lows for disposals, kicks, tackles and rebound 50s, which is a big blueprint for Heath Shaw's scoring. We know he loves to get 20 odd kicks, maybe 2 handballs, hit plenty of targets and a few intercepts along the way. That's pretty much his motto. But well, look, we didn't see it too much last season. 2006 to 2016, he was 90 plus on every occasion. 5 of those he hit the 3-figure mark. 2015 was 112.6. So it wasn't all that long ago that we saw some great numbers. In fact, in 2016, if my memory serves me correct, he scored that double ton, which was unbelievable scenes. But we should have been onto it a little bit that Shaw was on the downward slope. Now, I will outline this first, and I'll say right now, I'm not in the Heath Shaw bandwagon. I don't think he's a good option. I think he's past it. I think there's some better options around him that are a bit more youthful, or guys who are more so in their prime. I think Shaw will most definitely lift his average, but I feel as if it's not going to be worth taking such a punt on a guy who, I think it's a little deeper than just saying he had a poor year last year. These guys have gone, now he's going to be good again. He's getting pretty old these days, and I just want to highlight the back end of 2016, rounds 14 to 23. To an extent, we should have seen 2017 coming, because I think we saw a little bit of it in 2016. From rounds 14 to 23, averaged 89.3, and even the finals, I think it was just a 90 and a 69. So if you want to go from round 14 onwards, that was just an average of 87.5, which is more or less what he produced last year. So it's not just one season of fairly poor numbers by his standards. That's a season and a half. You know, that's a fair amount of time that he hasn't been able to produce it. Now, is that because he went slightly down the pecking order? Is Zac Williams a more damaging, penetrating kick? Are they looking to develop him more, give him those more opportunities? Or maybe Heath Shaw's just past it. Now, that's going to be really something that only the individual can make up on their mind, because it is a tough one. It's easy to look and say, gee, Heath Shaw, 458. You know, Heath Shaw, he's been good for a decade. You know, yeah, okay, he's 32, but, you know, he'll get plenty of good footy. You know, they still give it to him now. They're going to be looking for him out of the back line because the other exit players aren't there. As I've said a couple of times, I don't think it's that simple. What I think Heath Shaw is at the moment, and like I've sort of said, I think we can look at Heath Shaw through 2 different eyes. The first one is the one who's had a poor season or so, but a couple of guys have left. He will now get that chance. He'll just naturally go up again to the 100 mark. The other way of looking at it is looking at he's 32 years old. He's been a very, very good player for a long time. But I remember watching him last season because I had him for a fair portion. And watching him, he just didn't seem the same type of player. He seemed to have lost a little bit of dash. I think a lot of his touches was... I'd love to see the handball receive stat. I didn't look that one up, but there are a lot of touches where he was given the ball, exit D50, cheap little sideway kicks, a bit of cheap stuff from the kick-in, kicks to himself. I remember watching Shaw really in his prime, and he could mark it, intercept mark, and he had some dash, some real run and carry. I'm going to work towards and get myself into offensive position, where I think he's become just a bit of a general, just a bit of a switch guy. Let's switch it D50 Shaw to so-and-so. I think he'll still get a decent amount of ball, but I think he's playing a slightly more... Cheap's a tough word, but I don't think he's got as much influence over the game as he once has. And I think that's a little bit because he has lost a yard of pace, and I don't think he's not in his prime. He's 32. His prime's probably 5 years ago. He's still a very solid player. But that's where I'm seeing Heath Shaw. Yes, he's fairly nicely priced for what he's done, but I think we can look in the rear vision mirror and say, see you later, 100 average. I think it's gone. I think it's no use looking in the rear vision because I think that's where we'll see it. I don't see looking forwards too many 100 averages for Heath Shaw. That's my opinion. I think watching him physically not quite the same, I would have totally written him off for, probably a similar average with Williams still there. Well, he's still there, but, not injured. Now that little bit of extra opportunity and a little bit extra ball going through Heath Shaw has opened up, I can see his average maybe hitting around the 90 mark. I certainly can't see it jumping 15 points or around there. And let's face it, if you're picking him, he needs to hit 95, doesn't he? Surely. No pun intended there. That was actually an accent, but it worked out quite well. But look, I don't think we can be picking him to hit 90. And I think his numbers will go up. I think last year will go down as a real off year. I think they'll slightly go up. They'll pick up ever so slightly. But as I've said, gone are the days where you're going to get that 95 plus sort of an average. So be careful. Be careful. I think, you've got Tomlinson, you've got Nick Haynes, a few guys. Who else are they going to deploy off the back 50? It'll be interesting to see because I think they will, while it may not be a name that we know right now, there's been talk of a couple of youngsters who will fill that role. And I think they're probably more the ones we need to look at. I think there's a few guys who will play that Zac Williams role in front of Heath Shaw. I think he's more that general director, leader down in the back line. A bit like Luke Hodge. Still has plenty of value to the Hawks in recent years, but he's not the same scorer. He's not as much about his own stat sheet. He's more about directing youngsters, setting up, getting leadership. All the good players still do that, but it's sort of become their priority and their role. Less of it being, I'm the man, give me the ball. It's a bit more of the other way. A senior player who's not in his prime, still got plenty of value, still got a few tricks, still got plenty of footy now, so don't get me wrong. But I just think last year and a bit of 2016 is a shift in Heath Shaw's career, and that's where I see it going. I don't see it coming back the other way. I think we've seen enough footy of him in between 80 and 90 averages for the last, what would it be, 30 to 32 games, around there. I think that's enough, to be honest. So I'm pretty sold on that. I know there's been a few people who have mentioned Heath Shaw and should we be picking him. So hopefully that clears it up for you. I would feel safer with maybe even a Pierce Hanley. I'd like to see a bit more, but that's not a bad comparison. I feel like Hanley is more so in his prime. He's got that little bit of upside. He's cheaper. He's getting midfield time, far more opportunity, bit of a point to prove. Where I think Heath Shaw's just transitioned into that leader, does his job, gets a bit of ball, but he's not the prolific player we once knew. So I feel that sums it up fairly well. That's where I'm at with Heath Shaw. Let me know what you're thinking about Heath. He's been a great servant for us over many years in that back line. So certainly one worth noting. But yeah, I'll be back probably Friday, or I might even schedule this Friday. Certainly I'll be back over the weekend at some point. but give me any ideas you want player profile wise, and certainly we'll hone in on some positions in the near future as well. But thanks for getting on board too, guys, because the subscribers keep going up by 2, 3, 4, 5 each day, and it's great to see. I really appreciate it. So I'll keep churning out this content for you guys, and hopefully you're enjoying it. So thanks again. I'll catch you later.